Welcome to Brain Alpha. Today, we're diving into the absolutely wild story and, more importantly, the actionable rules of entrepreneur Dan Martell. This is a guy who built a legit empire from about the worst start you can imagine.
You know, this one sentence, it's pretty much the core of his whole philosophy. It's so simple, right? Direct, no nonsense. And it's the exact rule that took him from a jail cell to selling off multiple companies for millions. And believe me, the story of the man behind that rule is something else.
Yeah, over $80 million. That's his estimated net worth right now. So how do you even get there? Well, he started and sold multiple companies for one. He's also invested in over 40 startups, and now he actually coaches other entrepreneurs to do the same thing.
But here's the thing you've got to get. This was not some story of privilege, No fancy degree, no family money. This was a story of clawing his way back from a super troubled past that almost ended his life before it even really got started. So let's just go back to the beginning.
All right, an unlikely success story. You see, long before the millions and the tech companies and all that, Dan Martell's life was on a completely different path. And honestly, it was a pretty destructive one.
Okay, so just look at this timeline. It really shows you the dramatic turnaround. I mean, at 16, he's in a police chase, stolen car, guns, and he gets arrested. A few years later, he's in a correctional facility, and a single book on computer programming, it just changes everything for him. Fast forward, he's 24, he's a CEO. By 28, he's a multimillionaire. It's insane.
But the real turning point, the moment it all got serious, it came after he hired his first few employees. He drove over to one of their houses to drop off some paperwork, and when he gets there, a little 3-year-old girl answers the door. And standing right behind her is his employee's pregnant wife. He said in that instant, it just hit him. Their whole family, their future, it all depended on him making this work. This wasn't just a game anymore.
So that leads to the big question, right? How in the world does a 24-year-old with a criminal record and zero traditional resume land these massive corporate clients? We're talking Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble. How? It was pure, scrappy hustle.
He came up with this thing he called the follow the trucks method. See, he knew that huge software companies like Oracle or Microsoft weren't just going to hand him a list of their brand new customers. So he had to figure out a way to, follow their trucks, to find out who had just dropped a ton of money on new software and was now desperate for someone to help them set it all up.
This was absolutely genius. He totally reverse engineered the whole sales process. He'd see a public job ad and realize, aha, that's a signal that a company has a problem. Then he'd make an anonymous call, pretending to be someone else, just to get the exact details on the project. So by the time he walked in their front door as himself, he had all this inside knowledge and could present a perfect, tailor-made pitch. It was brilliant.
And you gotta love this quote. He was 24, wearing a suit and tie. He knew you had to play the part. He got that selling to these huge Fortune 500 companies wasn't just about the work itself. It was about projecting total, unshakable certainty. People don't just buy what you do, they buy your confidence that you can do it. And he played that part until it became who he was.
Okay, so he's getting some early wins, things are looking up, but right around the corner was a near-fatal business lesson. One that almost completely bankrupted his entire company.
Let me show you the brutal reality of what they call the cash gap in a service business. So on day 1, you start the work. But on day 30, you got to pay your own team. Then maybe on day 60, you finally get to send the invoice. And the client's payment process doesn't even start till day 90. The cash, it doesn't actually land in your bank account until day 120. You're spending your own money for months before you see a single dime from the client. For a young company, this is an absolute death trap.
So he'd write net 30 on his invoices, right? Which means, please pay me within 30 days. But these giant corporations, they didn't care. They paid whenever they wanted to pay. It got so bad, he was forced to sell his unpaid invoices to another company just to get cash fast. But in doing that, he lost a painful 20% of his revenue just to make payroll. Ouch.
But this is where he got clever. He completely flipped this defensive problem into a proactive sales tool. He started offering variable pricing. Basically, he started negotiating payment terms right at the beginning, offering clients a better price if they paid him faster. And suddenly, the client's own finance department became his best friend, pushing to pay him on time to save their own company money. So smart.
So after surviving all that, basically a trial by fire with his first business, Martell didn't just walk away rich. He walked away with a set of rules, a blueprint really, that anyone can use to build their own success. And this is his first and maybe most important rule. If you want to get rich, don't take advice from people who aren't. You have to filter your inputs. I mean, think about it. If you want to achieve something, why would you listen to anyone who hasn't already done it? He says your friends and family, they mean well, but they want to protect you from pain. Success, though, it requires breaking through that pain, not running away from it.
He boils it down to these 4 core skills. He says mastering sales and persuasion, that's the ignition switch. That's the one skill that gets everything started. And from there, you just stack on the others. Public speaking to communicate to many people at once. Intentional networking to build deep relationships. And creating content to tell your story and scale your trust. Put them all together, and that stack creates some serious, unstoppable momentum.
And this is so key to how he communicates. Facts are fine, they inform people, but honestly, they're forgettable. Stories, on the other hand, they create a real emotional connection, and it's that connection that builds the trust and authority you need to actually influence people and make a difference.
Okay, now this is a fascinating idea. He argues that trying to 10x your results is actually easier than trying to 2x them. And you're probably thinking, how does that make any sense? Well, think of it this way. To 2x your results, you just work harder. You do more of the same stuff. But to 10x, well, that's impossible with your current methods. It forces you to completely throw out your old playbook and find brand new creative solutions. It forces you to find leverage, either through technology or people or a whole new business model.
All right, so your turn to build. What does all of this really mean for you? The final lesson isn't some new tactic or a simple little hack. It's really about mindset and what it means to be truly committed.
I mean, everybody wants the 6-month shortcut, right? The magic pill. But Martell is super clear on this. Real, lasting success is not a sprint. It is built on a long-term vision and a solid decade of dedicated, consistent work. There are just no shortcuts.
He built his success over a decade. So that leaves us with a pretty big question. What will you commit to for the next 10 years? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and help us build the hype. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.